All right, so let's talk about week one. So I put this together. I came up with this idea in the sense of like somebody that's going to practice like maybe 20 to 30 minutes a night on average. So just keep that in mind as we go through this stuff. So first thing you want to do is you obviously grab the guitar. You want to kind of figure out like a comfortable position for you because there's different ways to hold the guitar. You're probably going to start playing like sitting down. Eventually maybe you'll like graduate to standing. I never really did. I just like to play sitting personally. It's easier. You can kind of like lean over the guitar and like see what you're doing, and it's more I don't know what the word is, like involved, I guess, so to speak. You know, it's kind of more intimate, I guess, with the guitar when you're just down here like jamming away versus like standing. But you know, if you plan to play in bands on stage and stuff, then eventually you're going to want to stand. But right now, I would say just find a good chair that you can sit in and a good position so you can hold. Depending on what guitar you have, I'm assuming that you have something that kind of has a spot here for you to hold it. If you have like a flying V, then generally it's going to be the V section kind of goes in between your leg here. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying there, but so this right here is kind of a common way that a lot of people will hold the guitar, or putting it on, so your right leg and then your left leg. And if for some reason, or if you end up being like left-handed, then it would be the opposite for you. So this way, I think personally is more comfortable. You know, like classical guitarists will have like something like underneath their foot. I can't really show you, you can't see, but they'll have something underneath their foot. Sometimes I'll take this old yoga block that I have, and it's probably like 4 inches in depth, and I'll just set it down and set just my left leg on top of that, and it kind of props it up more to where I can sit up straight. Because if you're like sitting down playing guitar, bending over for long periods of time, especially when you start to get older like I am, it kind of wears on your back a bit, and it can, you know, cause some problems. So the straighter up and down that you can sit, the better. So kind of find a comfortable position for you, whether that is, maybe this is the way that you want to do it and you're younger and you don't really care about your back at this point, or it doesn't affect you, or maybe, you know, finding like some sort of a couple books or something to put under your leg might be a better bet. I know that my daughter's 9, she's playing just like a full-size guitar, so she kind of has to have it on this leg, because otherwise she can't reach these first frets. If she had it over here, she'd be like reaching, she could probably reach to about here. So, you know, just keep that stuff in mind. Like, find a good position, a comfortable position that you think you could play for, you know, 30, 40 minutes without much problems, you know, and if you have to get up once or twice, that's fine. But I would just say, find a position that you're comfortable in to play for like 30 minutes straight. So next is tuning the guitar. So you want to get yourself a tuner, whether you go down to the music shop down the road, or you order one on Google, or you just download an app. There's free apps out there. The one that I use, I usually use one on my guitar or GarageBand program that I record and have my amp sims on, but I have one on my phone that's called Guitar Tuna, which works just fine. The thing about Guitar Tuna, though, is I believe it only will tune to standard tuning. So if eventually you want to tune to some like different tunings, then that one might not work for that. But I think they have like a Fender tuner app that will tune to different whatever tunings you want. So just find yourself a decent tuner and then figure out how to get your guitar in tune. And you want to kind of memorize. I would say there's a few like theoretic ideas that you want to understand. Like, a lot of people don't like the idea of learning theory because they think it's like really, really complex and you got to learn all these scales and notes and chords, and it kind of is, it can be, but there is a few theoretic ideas that you definitely want to understand. And one of them is going to be like how the fretboard's set up. So the first step to that is understanding in standard tuning, like what each of these notes are, what the open strings are. So from the big string here, the one on the top of the fretboard, it's E, A, D, G, B, and then E again. So This is technically considered, this low string here, the big one, is technically considered the bottom string because it goes by pitch. So this is like the highest pitch, so they call it the top. This is the lowest pitch, it's called the bottom. It gets a little bit confusing for me when I'm trying to explain stuff, so I might accidentally say top string, bottom string, but I'll try to do it right. But that's generally what people will consider those as. And if you like look at the guitar like this, like you're playing a piano or something, it is, this high string is actually the top. And when you're reading tablature, which we'll talk a little bit more about tablature later on, the bottom line is the low string. So we'll get more into that. But just learn the E, A, D, G, B, and E. Memorize that this first week. You want to understand that. So let's get into actually what you're gonna start like playing and like doing. So you'll probably want a guitar pick. With metal, it's pretty much impossible to get the aggressive type sound that you want to get when playing like riffs and heavy stuff without a pick. I mean, I think not Dimebag, but I think Zakk Wylde at one point had like his thumbnail grown out, but that's kind of, I don't know if you want to do that. I would just say learn how to use a pick. So I'm not going to get too much into pick holding. I think right now it's just, you just want to kind of figure out how to play some notes. But what I will talk about is you definitely want to have a good grip on that pick and cover most of the pick with, you know, your couple fingers. If sometimes people will hold it with 2 fingers on the back and then the thumb on the front, or just the first finger and the thumb. Just however you feel comfortable holding it, just make sure that you're covering most of the pick and that it's not gonna like shift around and slide and fall out of your fingers as you're playing. So the first actual like playing that I want you guys to do is just pick some of these open strings. So the bottom 3, so these 3 right here, just I want you to just down pick. I don't want you to try to go down and up, which down and up is like a it's called alternate picking, and that's a technique on its own. But you don't want to learn that now. Like you want to, let's just focus on down picking. So just down pick these open notes. Just keep doing that until you feel like you can do them. You know, you don't have to do them as good as I just did, but probably to about there, to where you're pretty comfortable that you can actually do that without missing strings or screwing it up. Make sure that this hand right here, the left hand, is not blocking those strings, because if you're touching that note, it's a dead note. It sounds like that. So make sure that if you don't hear that note ring out, then figure out what's going on, whether it's this hand that's blocking it or this hand or maybe your thumb, something. Just figure out what's going on if you can't hear these notes ring out, and then just continue to pick these open notes for a while. That might be, you know, half of your first day, depending on how long you play for that day. And then next, all I want you to do is just with this first finger here, the pointer finger, start on this first fret, the one all the way closest to the head here, closest to the bridge, and I want you to just push down on that fret. And when you push down, you want to have your finger like curled. You don't want to have your finger straight like this. You want to have it curled, and you want to push down with just this tip of that finger. And don't worry too much about getting it perfect right now. You just want to try to get a note out of it, but that's going to be the way you want to do it. And when you do push down on this fret, eventually it might make sense right now because it's going to be easier to push down right in the middle of the fret is going to be the metal piece that's like that. You're not going to push down on that metal piece. That's the fret. You're going to push down in between. So if we were in between like this nut and the metal piece, or in between the two metal pieces if you're on one of these other frets. So maybe just go right in the middle and push down, because right now, without having the strength and the calluses on your fingers, it's gonna be a lot harder to push down on those frets. So eventually what you want to do is you want to push down as close to the far fret as possible, so that as close to the the metal fret that's closer to the body here, that's where you want to push, as close to that as you can. But right now, go ahead and just push down right in the middle of that fret, and just take this first finger and just push down, lift up, push down, lift up, and just do that a few times until you're able to get a fairly clean note out of it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but until you're comfortable and you feel like you can hear the note, and it's okay. It's not gonna ring out perfect in the beginning, but you want to have some sort of a note come out of that. So just down pick that, pull off, push down, pick, pull off, push down, pick, pull off, push down, pick. Do that for a while until you get comfortable with that, and then start going from fret to fret. So start on this first fret, move to the next fret, and move to the next one, and do this all the way till you get to this 12th fret, which the 12th fret on most guitars is going to have the two. Mine has the line, but on the top of it, it has two dots, and you probably have two dots either on the top like me, or might be actually on the fretboard. So go all the way to the two dots and then go back. And then just do that a bunch of times until you're comfortable with that. You feel like you can do it okay. You don't have to go real fast, but you want to be able to do it fairly clean to where you're not stopping for long periods of time. And then take the next finger, your middle finger, and do the same thing. And then keep doing that between, and use all four fingers, even the pinky. And just do that between all four fingers until you're comfortable with that. And that's probably going to be most of what you want to do in this first week. But if you get to the point to where that's something that you can do fairly well, then just pick a fret, maybe the 5th fret, and just go between two fingers. So now we're going to start with the 1 and 2 fingers, so the pointer and the middle finger. We're going to go 1, push down. So start on the 5th fret, pick with that pointer finger down, and then push that middle finger down on the next fret over, so the 6th fret, and do that again. So, and every single time you push down on one of these frets, you want to pick. You don't want to hammer on. You want to pick each of these notes. And then once you're comfortable with between those two fingers, do the same thing between all the fingers. So now just anchoring off of this first finger on with all the other fingers. So 1 and 3 finger, 1 and 3 finger, 1 and 4. And do that till you're comfortable with that, and you can do that fairly well. And when you go between these other fingers, so when you go between the 1 and 3 finger, jump over 2 frets so that you're going from dot to dot when you're going between the 1 and the 3 finger, and then when you're going between the 1 and the 4, the 1 and the pinky, the index and the pinky, go over 3 frets, so you're now on the 8th fret. And when I have my hand on the fretboard, so in a perfect world, my hand would basically, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets. My hand just kind of sits here, and then I maneuver it around as I need to. And in a perfect world, my fingers wouldn't go anywhere else besides here, but obviously that's not gonna ever happen. There's times when I need to stretch over to here, or there's times when I need to be like this, or so there's times when you're gonna need to steer away from these 4 frets, but generally, if I have nothing that I need to move my hand for, I just kind of have my hand in that position to where it's like, I have, 1, 2, and 3, and 4 frets pretty much covered. All right, so as far as like actually practicing on the guitar, that's all that you guys should worry about in the first week. And just every day practice that stuff. Once you get one of these ideas down, move to the next one and just keep practicing this stuff. And then each day when you come back, warm up with what you did the day before, and then try to move on to something new. And then a little bit more about the fretboard, kind of like I was talking about. One of the main ideas that you're gonna want to understand and learn as far as like theory goes is like understanding the fretboard and how the notes are laid out. So there's, you can kind of think of the fretboard as like two fretboards as far as like how the notes are laid out on the fretboard. So if you don't know much about music, the musical alphabet is basically A through G. So this fifth string here, the second to lowest string is an A note. So I'm gonna kind of explain it off of that. So this open note is A, but then this 12th fret note is A as well. So this is G. So it basically goes A, G, and then back to A. So basically, when you get to this 12th fret on all the strings, the entire fretboard, all the way up and down all these strings, that is the same notes as all these open notes, except for it's just one octave higher. So in a sense, once you get to this 12th fret, the fretboard just starts over. So the way the fretboard is set up too, with like the dots and stuff, this first dot here, so the 12th fret, obviously we talked about, open note is the same note as the 12th fret. That's like kind of the nut here in a sense, is the 12th fret. And then this first dot here, actually not this first dot, but the 3rd fret first dot is the first dot on, like when you get down to this fret, to the 15th fret. And then the second dot here, or actually, yeah, the 5th fret dot is the same as the second dot here. And it lines up all the way down. So you don't have to learn all the notes from fret 1 through 24. You just have to learn the notes from fret 1 to 12, and then it starts all over. So with that sense, the fretboard gets really a lot smaller and way more easy to understand once you kind of realize that it's kind of like just two of the same fretboard, but just on one fretboard. And if you guys are watching this video and you're like, hey, I'm like a bit above this level, I don't think this stuff is going to apply to me. I already know this stuff, I understand this stuff, but I am somewhat of a beginner, and I am frustrated. I don't know what to practice. I don't know where to go to get good at metal guitar. I left a link for my full course, which basically covers all that. It basically covers exactly what you need to practice and learn to get good at this style of guitar, and how to structure an effective practice routine to where you don't have to practice for hours, but you still like are playing the stuff that you enjoy, and you're not playing like repetitive scale stuff. So check that link out if that's you.